E flat major 7th, C minor 7th, G minor 7th, E flat 7th, A flat major 7th, B flat 7th, G minor 7th, C minor 7th. Well, I think everybody knows that song. It's Over the Rainbow from the movie Wizard of Oz. And some people call it Somewhere Over the Rainbow, although the official title is Over the Rainbow. And it was written by Harold Arlen, the musical composer, and his lyricist partner, Yip Harburg, for the movie in 1938. And they got this songwriting assignment to do the music for this wonderful movie, The Wizard of Oz, which had mixed reviews actually when it came out, but that's another story. They were given a $25,000 to do this assignment, and I looked up on the inflation calculator, and in 1938, $25,000 would be equivalent to $500,000 in 2022. That's what it said on my inflation calculator. That it doesn't even seem right, but I would take a songwriting assignment with a partner for $500,000. I think that seems like a pretty good deal to me. Although several other contemporary songwriters, or contemporary to those times in 1938, such as Jerome Kern and Richard Rodgers, were considered for this assignment. For one thing, the junior producer, Arthur Freed, was a song lyricist himself, and he had control over the creative process enough that he could have hired his own songwriting partner, somebody to do the music, while he could have done the lyrics. He could have hired Jerome Kern or Richard Rodgers. And in fact, Richard Rodgers at one point said that he thought he had already had the assignment sewn up, but that was not to be. Arthur Freed thought the perfect songwriters for this project would be Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg. For one reason, this amount of money they're getting, $25,000, was a deal, actually, because other songwriting assignments were getting paid more than that. I'm not sure how much more, but say for some of the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies, the songwriters were getting even more than that. And those other songwriters would have been George Gershwin, Cole Porter, and Irving Berlin. But so Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg were happy to get this assignment, and they got to work on the music and wrote enough songs that the songs were very important to this particular movie, because it was a musical and because the songs are so interlocked, intertwined with the whole creative work. The songs were very, very important to the whole project in general. But one thing they wanted was to get a hit song in the movie, a standard, something that would be a hook that would stand out and identify with the movie. In short, would be a hit song. So it was up to Harold Arlen to come up with the melody first, and he was having a heck of a time. He was going days or even weeks having this project weigh on his mind without getting an idea for a song, a melody that would lend itself to passing on to his lyricist partner that would be a hit song. At some point, they both agreed it would have something to do with the rainbow. But he didn't have the melody yet. So it seems very easy, doesn't it, to come up with a melody? Well, apparently it wasn't that easy. So he finally decided to just get away from work one night, and he had his wife drive over to Grauman's Chinese restaurant. I think that was on Sunset Boulevard. I'm not that sure. But anyway, at one point he told his wife to pull over. he had an idea. He pulled out his manuscript paper, wrote down the ideas he had, and that turned out to be the beginnings of the song Over the Rainbow. And he passed it on to his partner Yip Harburg, and he came up with the lyrics. He didn't have the lyrics for the first two notes of the song. Now the note starts with a interesting octave jump. There aren't a lot of songs that start off with there are some, but it gives a distinction and puts the song in a club, the octave jump beginning club. Somewhere over the rainbow, that octave jump. Well, they didn't have the first word yet. Somewhere. So at one point, Yip Harburg was playing the song for people and showing how far along he was with the song, and he played it for his partner at the time, who was Elaine Gorney. Elaine Gorney was his female partner at the time, and she had been married, or maybe even was married at the time, to Jay Gorney, who wrote the music to Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? Yip Harburg had wrote the lyrics to this standard song, which was a song of the times, the Depression, 1930s. Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? So anyway, he played it for Elaine. Her nickname was Eddie. And he said, here's what I've got so far. La, la, over the rainbow, way up high. And she said, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. And he goes, that's it. That's the lyric I'm looking for, somewhere over the rainbow. And he says, I'm going to give you partial songwriting credit for the song because you came up with that idea. It was crucial to the song. And she said, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It's your song. And Elaine Gorney, Eddie, as they called her, was from Michigan. She was born in Grand Rapids and went to University of Michigan. And she has the distinction of being part of the creative process and coming up with the song, Over the Rainbow. So they had the song, and the happiness didn't last quite as linger as long as they might have wanted it to, because they cut the song from the movie. The executive producers did. And Harold Arlen didn't know this when he went to the screening. And when it came to the time, when Judy Garland said, there's a land far off, and blah, blah, blah. She comes up with that spoken intro. And then, bam, there's no song. It goes on to the next scene. And, of course, he was devastated. He was beside himself when he saw that the song had been cut from the movie, to the point where Harold Arlen said he was never going to go to a movie pre-screening again. And he said he didn't. So it was up to the junior producer, Arthur Freed, to make a scene. And Arthur Freed was not a highly paid executive at the time. He was a mover and a shaker, and he wanted to be do more movie musicals. But he put up when they had the meeting with Harold, with the songwriters and with Arthur Freed, and I think 3 or 4 executives higher up in MGM was the movie company that produced Wizard of Oz. He put up such a scene. I guess there was a shouting match, and then Arthur Freed, a junior producer, threatened to quit, which, what might not have been any great shakes for most junior producers, but he had showed such promise with MGM that they said, we don't really want this guy to quit, and so to calm him down, they put the song back in the movie or something like that. It was they objected to the song because here was the star, Judy Garland, singing the song in a barnyard, and also they thought it slowed down the movie, whatever the reasons they had. These 3 or 4 upper executives all agreed on that, but then they gave in to Arthur Freed, who argued to put the song back in the movie. So, what is Over the Rainbow? Well, it's a standard. By any standards, it is a standard from the Great American Songbook. These songwriters, Harold, Arlen, and Yip Harburg, were part of a group of people who were, which included Richard Rodgers, Jerome Kern, George Gershwin, and several other songwriters who were producing some of the greatest standards that are still being played nowadays. They came to be called the Great American Songbook, the songs that were produced in the 30s and 40s, and some a little before and some a little after. It's a 32 measure song with a tag at the end, so it's after you hear the familiar beginning, the first 8 measures, it repeats, and then it goes to a bridge, which is the B section. So the form is AABA in symmetrical units of 8 measures each, which is 32 measures plus the tag, which I'll get to later. I did explain the form of the song in a previous tutorial, and here's what I said at that time. Now, in American popular music, especially with the Great American Songbook, songs of the 30s and 40s, a very popular song form was AABA. Now, this does not refer to the keys at all. AABA refers to the sections of the song. So typically there were 32 measures in a song, and each section was the same length, so AABA would each have 8 measures. So the bridge, the B section, goes. And then the tag uses that melody from the bridge, "If happy little bluebirds fly," to end the song. "Beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?" So in effect, it's a little more than 32 measure song, but sometimes musicians will consider that tag optional, and jazz musicians who improvise on it will sometimes just use the 32 bars as their template for improvisation. So that's the story of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. There I said it. I said the title incorrectly. It's Over the Rainbow. But if you Google Somewhere Over the Rainbow, you'll also find it too.